Okay, to be recessed.
I thought our only fight today was going to be choosing the Twitter name.
And I don't feel happy about the Twitter name. Do you?
I don't care. That's why I told you.
Okay.
That's why I told you. Do you want to change it?
Okay.
Let's change it back. You feel sad.
But I don't like anything. The one that I wanted is taken.
I don't get it. This is one of those where I'm like, yep, don't get it.
You don't have
We see eye to eye on most things.
Yeah, but we have a difference about internet.
Twitter names. Welcome to How to Be an Okay Person. I'm Lindsay Chrysler.
And I am Robbie Carlton. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Well, you know, one day we are going to
do that intro a little quicker.
No,
I forgot what the show was called. That's what happened.
No, but that's what I'm saying. One day we're going to explain the name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How to Be an Okay Person.
Like explain the show. Like what are we talking about? What is this show?
Right. But not today.
But not today.
No, we're so excited about the show topic that we just want to start talking about that right away.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The grid.
The grid.
The grid.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that Robbie and I have been doing for 2 months now. Have you been doing it for longer than me?
Yes.
Yeah, you did it before. You did it earlier than I did.
Uh-huh. I've been doing it for 3 months.
You've been doing it 3 months.
Yeah.
I am about to complete 2 months of the grid.
Uh-huh.
And I agreed to do 2 of the 3 months. And I think I'm going to do it for a lot longer. Maybe for the rest of my life.
Maybe.
But I say that about a lot of things, so hold on.
Grid for life.
Okay, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, well, I want to tell people why they're going to care.
Okay.
First of all, just a little bit. So, yeah, this whole episode is going to be about this tool called the grid that we kind of discovered and have been using. And why you should care and why we're so excited to get this episode done and it really lit a fire under our asses is because the grid it's a tool for doing the same kind of thing that New Year's resolutions are supposed to do. And a New Year's resolution is kind of like, if there's something that you want to change about your lifestyle, our culture, I mean, now there's like so much more, especially if you're kind of in the Bay Area or in these kind of more progressive, like millennial, like self-development, there's more and more and more, but still at a kind of like the level of like deeply embedded in the cultural norms, there aren't that many tools for changing your lifestyle. And one of the kind of only general purpose tools that our culture provides is this thing, the New Year's resolution, which basically, it's basically just like saying, I'm just going to declare that I'm going to change my lifestyle.
Right.
In this, and there's, it's like not very fine grained. It's not very like,
built to last or built to succeed.
Yeah, there's not a lot of science in it.
No.
Right? It's just like, I'm going to quit eating sugar this year, or I'm going to lose 30 pounds, or I'm going to go to the gym.
Right.
Like, it's like that. And then good luck to you.
Right. And then maybe you sign up for a class and then maybe you do something about it, but it trails off and there's not a lot of...
we all know how it goes.
Yeah, we all know how it goes. That's why most people now are like, oh, I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Right. But there is this thing of like wanting to change your lifestyle.
Yes, very much.
Which everybody has to a more or less degree. And so the grid is this tool that does the same thing, but it does it in a more nuanced, more fine grain, and what I found is like radically more effective way. To the point where from doing this thing just for a few months, my life is like so different and it's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and we're going to talk about the benefits at some point, but kind of headline is happier, more well, stronger, more energy, more connected with myself. Just like all the good things just got to tick.
The anxiety dial has been turned way down.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So nice.
Yep. So that's my kind of pitch for why you should care and why you should listen to the rest of the show.
Yeah, it really works and it's fun. I think it's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah. Like, actually, New Year's resolutions in the past have been such a chore. And this, I mean, once in a while it feels like a chore, but not really. It mostly feels fun. And we're going to talk about how to make it fun, because there's a way you could do this same tool that we're going to say, and you could make it into a big chore, but that's not the point.
We're not going
to
do that.
The point is to create more well-being in your life, because it's fun.
I love that. I just want to underline that. The point is to create more well-being in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, like, more well-being for you. What is going to create more well-being for you? I mean, I have spent so many New Year's saying I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And it's like, for what? For who? Why? Is that, there's not that, that's not the most fun. It's just not the most fun goal. It doesn't mean that I will create more well-being.
Right.
It's like a number. And I actually, and I have lost weight before, and I've been way mean. Yeah. I mean, the most successful time I lost an actual amount of weight was when I turned into a bitch because I was so hungry. So well-being did not go up.
Right.
And then it drops off, because I think, I mean, this gets into philosophy of life, but when I'm having a good time being alive, it's because I'm creating a game for myself of how to be more happy and well, and have fun doing that.
Yes.
So,
I mean, I just think, like you traded well-being you made a deal with the devil. Like, I'm going to hand in my well-being in exchange for this thing of losing this weight.
Oh my God.
And then you get the thing, but it's like a deal with the devil. It ends up being like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, not at this price.
Yeah. And there's this thing in the grid, which I think we haven't talked about this yet, but it creates confidence in self, and it creates like consistency and well, I'm getting into the benefits, but it creates like trust in yourself and faith in yourself. So to create more well-being and have more fun doing all this. Robbie, you love history. You're the history buff in the group of 2.
Yes, relatively.
And you're 5 on the Enneagram. You like citing things. Okay, Robbie, will you tell us the history of the grid?
Yes, I will. So, and this is this is not this is not a scholarly history. This is just the history of it in my experience. So,
right, and how you came across it,
how I came across it, and the development. Yeah. And I think, well, I'll check this out with you, but so the first thing that's worth mentioning is I heard Jerry Seinfeld talking about the way he writes jokes and the way he motivates himself to write jokes. And he said what he did is he gets a big calendar, and every day that he writes a joke, he puts an X on the calendar. And I don't know if he said this, but in my mind it was like a big red X on that day. And then the whole game was to not break the chain. Like, you want to keep the chain going. So then you end up writing a joke every day. And if you write a joke every day, pretty soon you got a lot of jokes. Which is, how Jerry Seinfeld...
And, he's doing pretty well.
He's doing okay. Yeah.
Whatever he did, good work.
Yeah. And so I loved that idea as just a kind of really simple strategy for motivating yourself and creating a structure. So I was like, that's fantastic. So I got a calendar that had pictures of trees on it. And so what I would do, I had 3 things that I was tracking on this calendar, and I was writing a colored line across each day that I did it, so that it would even be more this like unbroken chain. And so I had these 3 colored lines, and the things I was tracking, I don't even remember. I was definitely working out.
Morning pages.
Was that in
writing?
There?
Yeah.
Writing, morning pages.
And maybe meditating?
I think, or it was like standing for a while.
Standing meditation.
Like, I was doing a standing meditation when I was healing my wrist. I think that was in there at some point. Anyway, I don't remember.
It was mostly the bells.
Yes.
Exercising.
Yeah, it was mostly, well, first it was running, because it predates the bells.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the bells happened while I was doing that calendar.
You were running.
I was running. And...
Getting exhausted.
And making myself sick every week. So that was
Oh.
Anyway, so I was doing this thing, and that was really cool, and it was really helpful. And I did that for a while, and then I guess I moved, and I just didn't put my calendar back up, and I just didn't get back into the swing of it. And you had started doing it as well, right?
Yeah,
like you were doing the calendar. You got a calendar. You were doing the lines.
I was doing the lines.
So then, somewhere along the way, a friend of ours, I don't totally know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm going to just give it a shot. And Duncan, please forgive me if I don't get this exactly right. I think it's Scottish. So it's Duncan Riach, I think, or Riach. And he started posting on Facebook these photographs and these little essays about this thing he was doing.
The lifestyle
He calls
challenge.
it the lifestyle challenge, yeah. And what it was is and I guess we're gonna get into it. This is what it is. It's a more elaborate form of the Jerry Seinfeld thing and a more elaborate form of the calendar thing that I was doing. And so what he did is imagine a grid of squares on a sheet of paper.
Like graph paper.
Graph paper. It's funny because in England, graph paper is something else.
Yeah, what do you call it in England? Because
we would call it squared paper.
Squared paper. That's what it is on the Moleskine website. So squared.
Graph paper has It has two levels of gradation. It has like tiny squares and it has big squares.
Okay.
Anyway, squared paper. So imagine the squared paper, and then there are labels on the left side running down, and we'll post a picture of this so that you don't have to just imagine it, but if you're driving, don't look at the picture. There are labels on the left side running down of things that you want to do in a day. And so there are things like get up at 7 a.m., meditate. And we'll get into the details of what they all are, but those are a couple examples. So you have this list of things that you want to get done in the day down the left, and then across the top is just the names of the days of the month, just 1, 2, 3, 4 up through 30, 31. And so each day you just put a little X next to the in the row of the item that you've done, and if you didn't do it, say you slept in, you don't get an X next to the 7 a.m. And so over time, what happens is you get this kind of grid of a pattern of X's and blank spots, which reflects your achieving of the things that you have kind of decided is noteworthy for you to track, that you want to put some intentionality around. And so I saw Duncan doing this, and he had things like, he had different exercise regimes that he was doing. And so he would like write down the number of like kettlebell swings he would do. He would write down the time of the plank he was doing. He was getting up at like 5:30 a.m. or maybe even earlier because he's kind of a lunatic. And
he's a machine.
I mean, he's crazy. He's honestly, we're going to post I guess we're going to get into this as well. We're going to post our grids and you guys can look at them. And compared to our grids, his grids kind of humble ours a little bit because the things he's signed up for and his consistency in doing them are pretty incredible. Like, he's doing something a little different to what we're doing.
Yeah, he is.
To see more of what Duncan is up to and to see his take on all of this, you can go to howtobeanokayperson.com/Duncan Riach. That's DUNCAN RIACH, and we will send you to the work that he's doing, and you can check out his take on all of this. And he is kind of a mad scientist genius about this, and definitely worth checking out. So that's Duncan. So I saw Duncan doing this, and I just looked cool. It looked like the obvious extension of this kind of Jerry Seinfeld calendar thing, but like really kind of like getting a lot going on. And I said, I want to try that. I'm going to try that. And so I tried it, and it was great. And then somewhere along the way, I told you, I don't remember what happened. How did you hear about it, or like what?
You told me. You were doing great. And you were doing, I think it was when you started it. Yeah, you started doing it and you were feeling great. You were getting all sorts of things done. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Uh-huh. It's just like that. I just told you about it. I said, I'm doing this thing.
Goes.
Yeah. And then you, so this is how it goes. I do something, and then I tell Lindsay about it, and then she does it, and then she tells 20 people about it. And now there's like, you have
now
clients
there's more people.
doing it.
I have clients. Clients are actually waiting. Some clients are waiting for this podcast, so they're going to listen to this podcast to really learn about it and do it. Hi, clients.
Hello.
I started telling people about it, and I started doing it. And then I think you had a real strong first couple weeks, and then I think I started, and then I had a really strong week. And then anyway, I did a test grid.
Yes.
I did a mini. I was like, this looks overwhelming, and I have started so many things and quit. And my personality just tells me like, 30-day commitment, like, hold on.
It's a long time. It's a big commitment.
That's a huge commitment. And you had like 10 things on your grid, which I now get that all of those things work together. So like, if you're getting like a few of them, it's really easy to get all of them. Like once you're in the grid mindset and you're going for this like amazing day or good day. So at the first, I thought I was overwhelmed by your grid. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, that's so many things to do. And then, so I made a test grid of like, okay, if I got to like wave a magic wand and plan my day exactly how I wanted it, here's all the things I would do, and let's see how this goes. For like the end of some month, 3 months ago. It's like I had like 7 days till the first of the month started, so I just practiced.
Yes. And then what happened? And
then I loved it, but I bit off way more than I could chew.
Surprise.
So I was very optimistic. And I also knew I had a test run, so I knew like it would be okay. And then the first of the month came, and it was 1st of November was coming. Winter was coming. So then I knew the grid, the fresh month was coming. And so I got really serious. I think we had a conversation, and like you helped me a little bit, but we brainstormed how to get these, how to break it down into smaller X's so that I would feel successful. And I did.
Yes. And it was successful.
And it was totally successful. I did more of my daily practices over that month than I've ever done in my entire life.
I mean, that's fantastic.
And I felt just so proud of myself. Like the self-esteem that comes from each little X is a big deal.
Yes. There's more to be said about that. I would love to hear, actually, I think it's time to talk about what is on our grids.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, do you want to start? So, This is just, and these are examples. Everyone's going to have different things on there, and it really depends on what it is that you want to build into your day as a structure, and what it is that you kind of want to be intentional about. So, yeah. So what's on there?
So you go first, because your grid helped inspire my grid. I kind of followed in your footsteps with a few twists of my own. So you go first.
Yes. Okay, great. So mine, and there's a couple that I'm going to omit.
For privacy's sake?
For privacy's sake.
Okay.
Yeah. But
everyone gets to share as much as they would like.
Yeah. So but the ones that I'll announce are getting up at 7 a.m., writing in my dream journal, so recording my dreams, even if that means, this is a total tangent, but even if that means just writing, I don't remember, I still get an X, just the act of sitting down in front of it, meditating. And then there's a few that are separated out for kettlebells workout, which I do in the morning, which we are absolutely going to do a whole episode on at some point. Oh my
gosh. We're like bell fanatics.
So we love the kettlebells. This is separated out into kind of 4 different categories: warm-ups, swings, get-ups, and stretches. I'm actually going to change that for next month because I think it's too much detail for the grid. I'm going to record that somewhere else. And the grid is just going to be a yes or no. Did I do it?
But super important in the beginning of kettlebells, because
it's real important to track.
It's tricky to get that warm-up and that stretching done in the beginning. Oh, you disagree. I would have, if there was no X for that, for me, I would have skipped it a bunch of times, and now I wouldn't have the discipline. And now I don't think I'll skip it.
That's interesting. I have to check about that. I'm not sure if that's true for me.
Yeah, I mean, you'll find out.
Yeah,
if you take it off.
That's true. Maybe I'll start skipping it.
We'll check in.
I think stretches.
Oh,
maybe
man.
I need a spare one for stretches. The warm up I do, but I think the stretches, because I'm scared of getting injured, so I do the warm up. But the stretches, I'm like,
you don't really want to still. I love stretches now. I thought so. I used to be a no stretch person, and now I love it. And proof in the pudding. If I were to take off the X, we'll see if I keep doing it. But I think I love it.
So
what else is on your grid?
So then there's airplane mode before all of that. So basically, I get to check if I kept my phone and my computer on airplane mode, with some exceptions. Like, I'm actually allowed to download podcasts. I'm just not allowed to check communications, and I don't want to get any notifications. But basically, airplane mode before all of that. Then I have a check for, and this is just December, by the way.
This is your most recent month?
This is the most recent month, yeah. November was different in a couple ways. So then I have a check for creative work, which just means that I've done at least half an hour or like a solid feeling push in some direction of some kind of creative work. No smoking is a check. I quit smoking. I don't remember when I quit smoking, but recently enough that it felt worth putting checks in there. I think in my first grid, there were some days that did not have an X.
Right. I remember that.
So
to even celebrate and solidify the no smoking, you get an X every day.
I get an X every day.
That's a real good feeling.
Yep. And I'm going to do it. I thought, I can, after December, I think it's been long enough that I don't need to do that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going.
It's higher stakes. It's like a higher stakes X to be. It's better to be extra cautious. It's one little line on your grid.
Right, exactly. And
let's not get crazy.
Yeah, and I feel good about it. And there's going to be a time where it's like not
even
relevant. Right?
Totally.
But right now, it's good to have an X there. And then I have
this is where he's doing a privacy check. I can tell.
Yes.
Because he's smiling and he's blushing.
So I'm gonna say this, and we will almost certainly do an episode
about
this at some point. One of my X's is, did I not ejaculate that day? So I get an X if I didn't ejaculate, and I'm tracking my ejaculation, and with the intention of not as much as I would if I were just left to my own devices.
We have to do a show about this because there are so many people that are not paying attention to that, and it's a game changer.
Yep.
You know more about this than I do, but
it's huge.
And it's still a practice that not a lot of people are talking about it, even in the like personal development field.
Yep.
Maybe because of the privacy of it, the nature of it, but maybe it's because people still don't know.
I think there's a lot of people that don't know. There's definitely a culture of people talk about it. I mean, a lot comes like tantra people, and Taoist people. There's a culture of men that are talking about this, and there's a huge number of men that aren't.
Huge, even the spiritual ones.
And it's a game changer.
It's so huge,
especially once you hit your 30s. Like it didn't make any difference to me when I was in my 20s. I could just. Anyway, this is a different show.
Come all day.
So, wow! I just realized on iTunes we have to
edit that as explicit.
Or we have to mark the show as explicit if we keep that.
Oh man, choice point.
But we'll
figure that out later. Okay. Well, good job sharing that publicly.
Thank you. What I'm not going to do is actually post my grid about. I'm going to edit my photograph of my grid so you don't see that one. Because that just feels a little too private.
A little too much.
Just be out there on the internet.
Yeah, if you're rewarding the people that have listened this far with your vulnerability, but they don't get to just glance at it.
Right.
On a photo.
Well, also no. What I mean is what I'm still preserving is the information of which specific days.
Like, right. Like, wow, Robbie really had a big week.
Right, exactly. So that's the part that I'm like, that's between me and whoever I'm happen to be being sexual with, and like that.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. So
Moving on.
Then the last two are bed by 11 p.m. and airplane mode at 11 p.m. So I go on airplane mode again at 11, and so that's my grid.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say something. I don't know where else this would go, so I'm gonna say it here. Part of the power of this thing is in just like tracking the things. But also, I think part of it is in structuring, especially like the morning routine. Like, it goes hand in hand with this, like, building a morning routine. Because in order to really get all these things done consistently and, like, be at my desk by 10 a.m. to get to work, I gotta be on it. And I have to actually plan. I mean, it's taken me a long time. I have all these different beverages I have to drink at different times, and then there are things I have to digest before I can work out, and like, when do you have breakfast? All these things. So part of it is like creating a morning routine that supports doing all this stuff. And so we're talking about the grid as if it's this kind of abstract, just tracking these things, but it's actually sequenced.
It
right?
is.
And it's not like you have to do it in that order, but you're writing the things in the typical order of the day in which they'll get done. And I've also have a game plan for my morning, right? Like, and that's so huge. So I just want to say that's an important piece of it too.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, you ready? Do you have anything as vulnerable as tracking your ejaculation?
No, I got
not
nothing.
this
I
month.
mean, if I showed my like the inner workings of my finances, but that's not a... Okay, so my grid. I mean, I'm going to start with my first grid and then tell you about some changes. So my first grid, because they're kind of similar. First grid, same, wake up at 7, and no Facebook was the way I worded it. Then I had a check for morning pages. And then this is where you'll know about Lindsay, is I then added in my little pen above that, or writing. Like, I must have changed that 3 days in. Uh-huh. And we'll talk about that. Like, we'll talk about changing things as you go and the value of locking things in from the beginning and not giving yourself wiggle room, especially if you have my personality. So then there's 30 minutes of God time. Mm-hmm. So that was just getting, usually in front of my altar, sitting and setting a timer for 30 minutes, sometimes meditating, sometimes doing tarot cards, sometimes praying, crying, journaling, sitting there. It's just 30 minutes with the intention of more attention on whatever God is. And then that's my morning. And then my exercise, the bells, same thing as you, except I had plank, and kind of writing down the seconds of how many seconds of plank I can get every day. And then 3 or more water bottles. Note, that's a lot of water. Then the next check was green tea only before noon. And then halfway through my grid, I had to actually put a little caret that said, finish drinking before noon, because I was going to my favorite tea place, Asha Tea, I'll shout out, in Berkeley, and I would get there at 11:55 and order like a huge green tea, and then I would just like nurse it for like 3 more hours. And I was like, wait a second, Lindsay, who are you playing this game with? Like, nobody's watching you. This is for you. So I edited that about halfway through. Green tea only, finish drinking before noon, no more sips. And then I had a check for detox, 90%. That was a joke. That's like 90% is so arbitrary, even though it sounds really numerical.
Wait, slow down. So
yeah.
Detox.
So I did a detox for women. It's a book by Natalia Rose, and it's this system. And when I figure out a nutrition plan for women that works, I'll do a whole show about it, but I'm still in the trial and error phase. And so anyway, the detox, I did it for like a week, and I was like, oh, I could eat like this every day, and then I'd feel amazing, because I did, but it was a detox, and it was like a week. Anyway, so I got an X if I ate detox style 90% of my day.
What happened?
That one has the least X's of all my rows, which led to last month's grid, which I'll tell you about. And then the last X is, or two more is, categorize yesterday's expenses for tax purposes. Just like go in my expenses app and say, was it a personal or business? That's all I had to do. And like, look at it. Like, again, like you with the dream journal saying like, I don't remember my dreams. Just like getting into the act of paying attention to my finances was like my goal. So I don't, it sounds small potatoes, but now I'm like doing so much better with my finances. So it worked. And then bed by 11, media off was one check. So then what happened when I moved to the next grid of last month? Same thing, except basically same thing, except I added looking at my OmniFocus for 5 minutes a day, which is my getting things done. I'm just listing so many topics.
I know, it's kind of incredible.
I am like really sounding like a personal development junkie.
Yep.
And you know what? I am one. Yep. So I just want to specify that the way that then I changed the food one to, I marked it out thinking that this would be more successful.
Okay.
By spelling out the detox exactly. And I got 1X for no sugar. I got 1X for no gluten. I got 1X for no cow dairy. And then I got 1X and I decided to quit caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that makes sense because it's like then if you have some sugar, if it's just one all clumped together as 1X, then you don't get your X. So then you may as well get some dairy. You may as well get some whatever else, right?
And that's what I would do.
Right. Whereas now it's like you fall off the sugar train, but you stay on the dairy train.
Right. I had a little cheese, but I still get my sugar X and my gluten-free X. So I was doing real well until this last week. And I could do the whole holidays thing.
I think you can do the whole holidays thing.
I'm going to do the holidays.
I think that's legit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm doing way better than I thought. I mean, this is the beauty of the grid, is I now am looking, as I approach January, I'm looking and I get visual feedback about how I'm doing. I'm like, well, actually, I did better with some of this dietary stuff than I thought. And like,
Okay, so those are our grids.
Those are our grids.
Yeah. There's something I want to say about... We just want to drop a little hint.
Ooh.
About how we're choosing these categories and what brought up nutrition. So for me, there was a very specific process that I went through that landed me on, I want to add a row about nutrition to my January grid. And it's not because I got scurvy or rickets or something.
Nobody except for you thinks about scurvy and rickets.
You think sailors think about scurvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not anymore.
I don't even know what rickets is, but...
I think rickets is actually vitamin D deficiency when you're a child, and your knees stop poking out in the wrong directions.
And scurvy is vitamin C deficiency?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's not good. But I think probably most of our listeners are
okay with
free from scurvy. Anyway, so that wasn't the impetus, but there was another impetus, which is kind of going to be a part 2. We're still figuring out the details of this one. It's not quite ready to be released to the public, but I just want to drop a hint. And right now, the kind of alpha testing name that we have for it is
the chart.
The chart.
I'm sorry, I spoiled it for you.
No, that's fine. To go with the grid. So we'll see. So there's a little hint, but that's kind of but you can just really just choose whatever it inspires you, like whatever, take from our examples, and you have your own practices and your own kind of things that you want to be intentional about and experiment. Like that's how you do it.
Yeah. I will give you one tip that worked for me is to choose something in the morning routine in the beginning that you like doing. Like doing God time for me before working out, huge difference. I can get out of bed to drink tea at my altar way easier than starting lifting. Maybe that's why it's a problem. Starting weightlifting.
Yes.
So that's one tip I have about how to choose what's on your grid. Otherwise, it's like...
Yeah.
choose what you really want to track and improve.
I love that. And I would, in the morning routine and just in general, like put a couple things in there that are just easy for you to do. That it's not going to be like, you don't want it to be all things that are like a huge challenge and you're making a massive lifestyle change. Like for me, by the time I was doing this version of the grid, doing kettlebells in the morning was pretty much dialed in.
Right.
I think even meditating, although my meditation has gotten way more consistent since I've been doing it, but meditating was already pretty dialed in. And then there were some other things that weren't. So what that does is it means you get some checks.
Right.
And what the checks do, and this is kind of how this thing works, is, and I'm going to go on a little detour to talk about dopamine now. So dopamine is one of these brain chemicals that dictates everything you do in your life. And what dopamine is it's they call it the reward neurotransmitter. And what it does is it gives you a good feeling about something that you're doing or you've just done. And it's like this little squirt of dopamine. And the subjective experience, so that's the objective event is some kind of gland, I don't know the biochemistry details, but some kind of gland releases this neurotransmitter into your brain, and your brain has an interpretation of that. The subjective experience is you have this sense of like, I'm on the right track, and specifically like I'm achieving something. There's like that feeling of like I'm getting it done. Like when you just finish doing the laundry or like tidying your house, or if you just finished doing a whole bunch of work that you needed to do, or if you kind of have wired yourself correctly when you're at the gym, right? And this is the trick. And the trick to any habit is to get yourself into a place where you are getting a dopamine hit from doing the thing. If you get a dopamine hit from doing the thing, you'll do it. And if you don't, or if like other factors are like drowning out that dopamine hit, then you won't do it. And so I'll just say, like, one of the really interesting things, and one of the things that taught me a lot about dopamine was smoking cigarettes. Because I was getting a dopamine hit from smoking cigarettes. And I would sit there, and my conscious mind knew, I don't want to do this. This is not good for me. It feels bad. Like, literally, as I'm doing it, it feels bad. It feels bad for hours afterwards. I'm just, the whole thing was a train wreck. But there's this more primal mechanism going on, that at the same time that I'm having that conscious experience, there's this feeling that I'm doing something that's worth doing, that I'm achieving something. I like, while smoking the cigarette, I'm actually achieving something positive, which is
like getting it done. Like you're getting something done.
I'm getting it done.
You're watching that cigarette get shorter and shorter,
and it's relief from the anxiety of not getting anything done. That's another way of saying it. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm getting something done. It's
that's so interesting. I've never thought about it, but that's like binge eating. Same thing. Like you eat the whole box of cookies. Or you eat actually a cake is a better example. Okay. And you get it done. Like you are achieving something. You're like eating the whole thing.
Yeah. And
or you could have it sitting in the fridge, like thinking about it, the anxiety of not doing that. Yeah. That's interesting. Plus the food chemicals and the cigarette chemicals and like addictive qualities of sugar and nicotine. But there's a dopamine hit of getting it done.
Yep. And so
succeeding.
Of succeeding, right? Of achieving.
And
So to go back to the grid, what we want to do is harness this brain chemistry to just line up with what we consciously want to do. And so every time you mark a little X on the grid, you get a little squirt of dopamine.
It's so great.
Yeah, and it's not like ecstasy.
It's not ecstatic.
It's not like, oh my God, I got an X, right? But it's just like a nice little feeling about yourself. Like, oh, I got that one.
Right.
And I got that one. Oh, that's nice. And in the morning, like, I'll check off some at from the previous day in the morning, and I'll just start my morning with checking off some little X's. I'm like, okay, I got this and this and this. And
oh, I love that. And you really want to give yourself the reward. I mean, you never told me this science stuff before. This is good. I hope Audrey's listening, because Audrey, my sister, she...
Are you gonna out her right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna out her. She started the grid, and in typical Chrysler fashion, was very excited about it. And she said, she was just like doing it, like having a great time with her first couple of days of the grid. And then I asked her the other day about it, and she said, "Oh, I haven't been tracking it, but I'm doing it." and she also has a little bit, if I can be like an older sister and like blab, you can edit this if you don't like it, but she also denies herself a little bit of pleasure sometimes. She like gets kicks out of. And so, but I imagine it will drop off if you, I think part of the reason of the consistency and doing it each month is the X's and X's and X's and X's and X's in this grid.
Yes. But wait, back off. So when you say she's I don't remember the words you used, but she's doing it, but she's not
tracking
it.
She said, I'm doing it in my mind.
And so her grid is empty.
Her grid is completely empty. The first 2 days are like all these like sweet, colorful. She like uses all these colored pencils. Her grid looks so different than ours. And two columns of just like doing great. And then it's totally blank. Now she also, family, holidays.
It's Christmas.
And I think that this is really important, is like, even if it feels silly in the beginning to check it off, even if you did it and you're like, oh great, I did it, and you get the dopamine of doing it, give yourself another squirt of dopamine and really mark it off.
Yes. I mean, absolutely.
I can't imagine not marking it off. I'm like so motivated to X, like I can't wait until I'm done with the bells and I get to fill it all out. It's like so exciting to me. I feel completely unmotivated without it. With this hard stuff.
Which is, it's funny, we were talking to Duncan the other day, and one of the things he said was, like, this feeling of, like, you shouldn't need it, like, really? I need to, like, have this thing just to do these things, blah, blah, blah. But it really makes a difference.
It makes such a difference. It makes such a difference.
And that's kind of, like, ultimately, like, whatever. Like, this thing, it works.
Right.
And so that's why we're talking about it, and that's why, and
we get so excited when we find something that like actually works. There's so much stuff that gets talked about that doesn't, or it just falls off, or it's just not as inspiring, not so confident about. I'm realizing I have a side note.
Okay.
It's also my own personal history with the grid before I ever met you.
Oh, really?
Was back in the day when my parents had a poop chart for me. And I think Audrey had a poop chart too. Poor Audrey, she's gonna get so just like her whole life is on blast because of my what do you call it? My disregard for anyone's personal privacy. So we had a poop chart, and I don't know why they were tracking poops. Maybe it was a medical thing. Maybe it was like pooping on the potty was like a big success. But there was a chart, and I got stickers, and there was like a pack of stickers by the toilet, and I would get stickers for every time I did. And this was the beginning of dopamine chart. I mean, this was really my first grid.
So you get a little.
The only thing I was tracking on my first grid was pooping.
So you get a little squirt of success, achievement, dopamine every time you poop.
Maybe so. Yeah. Do you? I think everyone does, actually. I think it's something that people are kind of wanting to get done.
I mean, I just get a message that it's time to get it done.
Do you feel a little bit of relief though afterwards?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's very physical. The relief that I feel afterwards,
right?
It's not kind of got.
You don't have it like
emotional...
linked to a successful moment in your day.
I'm gonna check that out.
Check it out.
Yeah.
I think I do, and my family definitely does.
That's fascinating. I mean, I remember my gran was really interested in
bowel movements
and how that was going when I was
Some
a little
people
kid.
Are so interested in it.
Yeah, but my parents, I don't think they really were that interested. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the colored paper and the stickers.
That's wild. If
Right on the side. Like I have an exact visual memory of this.
if this is gonna be one of those things that's gonna turn out, you'll ask your parents and they're like, there was no poop chart. This is the Mandela effect happening, and you and Audrey are gonna be like, there was a poop chart.
I swear. I see the little stickers in the packs, the stars. You guys all know those gold foil sticker, foil multicolored stickers, stars.
And there's something to be said. I want to say two things. One, if you are listening at home and you too had a poop chart growing up, please let us know. We'll tell you how to get in touch. Well, you can tweet us right? On H2BOK person. That's the letter H, the number 2, the letter B, the letter O, the letter K, and the word person. And
yeah, tweet us, please. I would love, especially after we've released this and I am known for a poop chart, I would love to find my friends.
Some solidarity. It's not just your poop chart against the world. I also want to say, this is totally unrelated and tangential, but I had a friend in Bristol who was a doctor, Denise. Hello, Denise, if you're listening, which would be very surprising. I hope you're well. And she had this thing that was it was the Bristol stool charts from, she was a resident at Bristol Hospital. She was, I don't know exactly her role, but and so she had this thing. I might be outing her. I think she probably stole it from work. That was this thing in the bathroom called the Bristol stool chart, which was a poop chart, but
different kinds of poops.
It was different kinds of poops, and I think there were 6 different kinds, ranging in consistency from most to least solid.
Right.
And they were numbered so that then the doctor didn't have to
talk about
this whole
it too
conversation much. About like, so tell me about your poop, and then someone would have to describe in great detail. They could just say, where is it on the chart, and someone would point, well, it's it's between number 3 and number 4. So it's funny that we're talking about poop charts, because this was not in the outline for the show at all.
And maybe we just gave a bunch of people who need to be tracking their poops for like medical reasons permission to put an X on their grid.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people, like I have several friends with IBS, and if they got a solid poop, like if they did some dietary things or like stress reduction or whatever, and they were getting solid poops and they wanted to dopamine reward themselves, put it on the grid.
Okay. Yeah.
Just saying, we might see some more poop X's than we thought.
I welcome it.
Me too.
Well, I want to say one thing as well about the gold stars. So I have a client who's doing this, and she uses gold stars.
Yeah.
Which I think, you can go the more masculine, like black X's, or the more feminine gold stars, and both work.
I'm reserving gold stars and stickers for like when something gets real rough. Like, hopefully it won't be. I mean, this is part of our tips. Hopefully I'll choose small enough goals, but like maybe there will be like a master level X one day where I'm like, okay, it's time.
Right, where it's like work on the book.
Oh, yeah, like that.
There you go.
Like work on the book. Train dog.
I think you get like cash for that one. You like staple a little 100.
God, there's a whole cohort of people that are just like really hoping I train my dog.
There are like, there's like
and there's dogs everywhere.
It's a radius. It's actually like a geographical radius of people that are like, yeah.
For those of you that don't know my dog, she just has a barking issue. She's like a kind of a cold blood killer when she's off leash with other dogs. Other than that, she's totally sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Few more things. Like, one thing that's really cool about this, and to kind of bring back the theme of the New Year's resolution, is this idea that it's a new day's resolution. Like, every day you get to come to this thing fresh and say, okay, today what am I going to do? Today what am I going to do? And we really, this is getting into the tips, like how to do this thing and what makes it work and all of this is like, this is really about positive reinforcement. It's about getting the little dopamine. It's about building consistency, building rhythm. It's definitely not about feeling bad. Like, when you look at your grid, you want to feel good. And just train yourself to do that. Just decide, I'm going to feel good about this thing. even when there are like chasms of white space where there should be X's, that's fine. Like, you're doing the grid and it works, especially if you can let yourself just feel good about it. Like, okay, I'm doing something good and I'm not perfect. And like I said, it's going to be vulnerable. We're both going to post our grids and you're going to see there are days where we miss stuff.
Yeah.
These are not like totally full grids, but every day you get to start again and just start with rewarding yourself for the things that you do that you kind of want to do in your life.
So important because, yeah. And if you have I just want to say, if you have tons of white chasm space, you are not choosing small enough. There's like a humility and a right size goal for each line of the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got tons of space, like you should mostly be seeing X's with like a few areas that are a little bit weaker.
Mm-hmm.
If you're totally like, there's just tons of space every day, you got to choose a way to be successful and get an X, especially on your first grid.
Yeah. You want to be getting
Don't
X's.
crash yourself by having you want to be getting X's and you want to choose things that are small. And even if it seems like ridiculously small, it will lead to a much bigger habit later. So
right. Absolutely.
That would be a problem. If you have tons of white space, that's a problem.
Agreed. But it's not a problem that you should feel bad about.
No, it just means we want to help you change your grid so you can feel really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even better.
Even better.
Even better. I also want to talk about, like, the way that I relate to most of these things on my grid is as intentions. So I'm holding the intention of meditating every day. I actually have not made a commitment. Because I just know where I am in my life right now. There are going to be days where I don't make it. So that's not a commitment. To me, that's not a commitment.
Mm-hmm. So what would be a commitment then?
A commitment is like...
I'm like, tell me. Everything is an intention in my life. Okay.
I'm doing it. Like, I'm doing it. And you know, wild horses couldn't drag me from my meditation cushion. Right? Like, that's a commitment.
So then what do you do when you fall off with a commitment on your grid? Like, let's say you're like, okay, I'm committed to not smoking. That's what you had to do every time for not smoking.
And so that's what, yeah. And so just to finish that thought, like, that's the one place where I do have a commitment on my grid. The others are just intentions. I intend to meditate. I intend to work out. I intend to get up at 7 a.m. If I don't, okay. I didn't, but I have this intention. There's just something different with the no smoking. It was like, it's time, like, just the nature of that habit and the kind of the way that you have to work with that habit. I needed to just make a commitment that I wasn't going to do it anymore. And then I still fell off. Like, there's still, because it's real strong. You just gotta, I mean, it's the same thing.
And it's the same thing you get back on the next day and you recommit.
And you just say.
But there was more weight to not getting that X because it was a commitment versus an intention.
Yes.
It felt different.
Felt different. And I don't know how to codify that more specifically, but I want to give people room to have both kinds.
I agree. And I wish I had known about that. I wish I had that distinction in my mind when I said the no caffeine, because this month I said, okay, I'm not going to do caffeine, which is more with addiction stuff. It's more of a style of okay, this probably is meant to be a commitment. I did not have it like that. I was like, I get an X every day. I don't have caffeine, it was like, no, it was a commitment.
Okay.
It was a commitment. I was like, I'm quitting caffeine. Here we go. And then 3 weeks in, I was like, I don't want to anymore. I think I got what I needed.
I quit enough.
I quit enough. I did it. I actually really don't want to do this anymore. And because it was a new day, I just said, okay, I don't care about that X anymore. Like that intent. And then I switched to an intention. Not in my mind, but that's what I was playing. I was playing with that.
Yes.
So the only commitment I remember making is I'm going to do this grid thing for 90 days.
Yes.
So anyway, so yeah, permission to make commitments or intentions.
Yeah. And I would personally, I would err on the side of
intentions.
Yeah.
For sure. So that you don't have, there's a little bit more beating yourself up that comes with commitments that we don't need to do that as much. Like, let's do that as least as possible. Let's set ourselves up to not do that as much as we can.
Yeah, and save it for the things where you really need to do some heavy lifting.
Because of your health or something that's really serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Should we just do a few quick more tips here?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. One tip I have, and this sounds really obvious, and for some of you, this will be like an insulting tip, and for some of you, this tip will be really helpful. Be honest about your exes. Don't give yourself an X if you don't get an X. Truly, that screws up the entire grid system if you lie about your exes.
Yep. So don't do it.
Don't do it.
I can never say this word. Corollary. Corollary of this is be really specific about what it means to get the X. Because if there's wiggle room, you'll wiggle.
You will for sure wiggle. Take it from me.
You'll say, I think that was 90% of detox. Like, that second chocolate bar, maybe just pushing it into the realm, or like,
and be specific about your wiggle room. Like, if you have a wake up at 7, but it really means, like, what does it mean?
She's getting me back is what's happening right now.
So does that mean wake up at 7, or does that mean you can snooze twice?
For me, that means it means my alarm goes off at 7 and I'm allowed to hit that 9-minute iPhone snooze 2 times.
Yeah.
And then when at 7:18, that's when it's time to get up.
So either be specific about your wiggle room.
Yes.
Or be specific about how you're going to get that X, but be specific no matter what. Don't change it to get your X.
Yep.
How will you know when you get the X? If that's not clear, you're going to have problems. So let's talk about supplies really quick.
Okay.
So we use the moleskin, which can be pronounced any way, Robbie tells me. The moleskin Cahir's Journal squared paper size large. It is soft cardboard covered, so it's light and it's also the size you can bring it anywhere. It fits actually in my like smallest purse. And the squared paper gives you a really even, it makes it all aesthetically so pleasing. So that's the brand we like. And it comes in a 3-pack. So you could give one to a friend. I gave one to 2 people and now they're using the grid all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're like a grid fan.
They're using some of it all the time.
And it actually, I looked at this. I don't recommend that you do a grid on both sides because of bleed through. But if you did, then then one of these tiny little books would last you longer than Trump's presidency.
Wow.
So, but if you do one side, it gets you kind of 3.5 years in. Yeah, a little past halfway through.
A little ways past.
So I want to add one more tip, which is find someone else to do this with.
Yeah.
Like, do this with a buddy, like
grid buddies.
Grid buddies. Like we are doing this together. And it's super helpful. Like we consult at the end of a month about what we're going to put in the next month. We're constantly talking about the grid. Like it's just supportive to have someone else who's using the same tool.
Yeah, so, it's really helpful.
Yep. And
so find somebody that wants to feel better and that you care about, ideally.
Yeah, and then play them this podcast.
Yeah. There were many moments where you would have a really strong grid day when I was having a weak grid day.
Uh-huh.
And then your strong grid day would help me, when that new day comes, have a strong grid day.
Like I would text you and say, I got all my
X's. Right.
And then the next day, you would get all your X's.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then there are other days where it's like we both had a weak grid day, and it was kind of like, yeah, didn't get a lot of those today. And then you would say like, yeah, nope, tomorrow. And then we'd both be like, okay, tomorrow. Uh-huh. And so there's a
solidarity.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
But choose somebody that's not going to be mean to you if you don't get your X's. Like that's, I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but don't choose a critical person to do this with.
Yep. Or at least like draw really clear boundaries of like, hey, here's what I'm up for, here's what I'm not up for.
Yeah, like no negative feedback.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, oh my God, you didn't get your X's, I'd be destroyed. So yeah, make sure you give people, if you're going to do it with somebody. I mean, I used to diet with friends and it's like, it can get rocky sometimes if they're not doing it and you are or whatever. You feel shame. Choose somebody you like and that you can be honest with and that's supportive of you, please. And if you don't have anyone like that in your life, make a grid line about that ASAP.
Yeah. Okay, so that's everything we have to say about the grid for today, I think. And all that's left is we would love if you are inspired by this, if this is exciting for you, if you make your own grid, we would love for you, or if you're already doing something like this, we would love for you to post it so that we can see. And we're going to post ours. And if you put it on Twitter, the hashtag is #checkoutmygrid. #checkoutmygrid. And we'll link to all of this so you can check it out in the show notes. But please show us your grids. Like, I really want to see. I want to see what people do with this, what directions they take it, and like that.
I'm so excited to see people's grids because we get ideas from each other.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening. We hope it's been helpful. And I hope that January 2017 is a game-changing month for you.
Me too. Thanks for listening. Grid on.
Grid on.